Welcome to the Be Bold podcast. I'm Beth Whitman. The Be Bold podcast gives me the chance to sit down with women doing bold things with their lives. I cover a range of topics from travel and adventure to the culinary arts, fitness and health, philanthropy, spirituality, and more. The idea is to find out what makes these women tick, what motivates them, and what led them to their success. While ultimately we all have to find our own path, when we hear about how others have accomplished their goals, it provides not only inspiration, but often practical advice on how we might be more successful. Today, I speak with MiMi Tung Edelman, also known as MiMi. She's the founder of MiMi Globe Goods, a nonprofit that helps stay-at-home immigrants by empowering them with skills and equipment where they can design, create, and market handcrafted jewelry and accessories. To be more specific about how this works, MiMi provides women with sewing machines, some tools and education in how to work the machine, and the skills to create fashion accessories. She provides them with the raw materials and the guidance, and they get paid for that work. These are refugee women who likely have no other means of making money. They're paid a fair living wage, and in Seattle, that's $15 an hour. Recently, MiMi Globe Goods won the Audience Award at the 2016 Northwest Business Impact Pitch Competition and was selected for the Social Innovation at the Seattle University Business Plan Competition. I heard about MiMi through a mutual friend at 10,000 Villages here in Seattle. This is a store, and there are something like 70 of them across the country that sells fair trade items from many countries around the world. I sat down with MiMi in her home in North Seattle to chat about her business, her background as an immigrant, her career as a pharmacist, and then what ultimately led her to creating a business that currently helps a handful of immigrant women in Seattle who are from Bhutan. But the beauty of this story is that her idea has the potential to help immigrants from many regions, and it has the ability to spread well beyond Seattle. MiMi's story was so interesting to me, not only because of the company that she's created, but because of her background. She's an immigrant herself. She's originally from Taiwan, but made her way to the U.S. by way of Saudi Arabia. In the U.S., she went to university and became a pharmacist. And when you hear about her background, it's easy to see how the hardships and transitions that she must have endured would later influence her to help immigrants today. Having volunteered for nonprofits myself for nearly 30 years and now running my own nonprofit, the Wonder World Foundation, I found MiMi's work really refreshing because not only is the idea pretty simple, but it has the potential of being quite large and improving the lives of many people and their families. The message here is really simple. Combine what you love with helping others, and you may find an opportunity that's just beyond your imagination. My conversation with MiMi will start in just a moment, but before that, I wanted to invite you to check out our trips on the Wander Tours site, where we feature women-only tours to a number of destinations, including Bhutan, India, Southeast Asia, Papua New Guinea, and those are actually co-ed trips, and Ireland. I'm now working on future trips to Africa and South America. And for those who would like something in the U.S., we've got culinary tours to Santa Fe, New Orleans, and Seattle. So with that, enjoy this conversation with award-winning philanthropist MiMi Tung Edelman. So my guest today is MiMi Tung Edelman, also known as MiMi. MiMi is the founder of MiMi Globe Goods. This is a company that's committed to helping newly arrived refugee women, and it actually helps make it an easier transition to America by providing them with living wages. And it's really, as you'll hear in this conversation, it's really a pretty amazing company. And you can check out the website too, which I'll put in the show notes. So MiMi, welcome, and thanks so much for taking the time to chat with me today.
Well, thank you, Beth, for inviting me.
So what I would love to do is just kind of start with where you are now in terms of MiMi Globe Goods, and then we can kind of backtrack a little bit and kind of hear what took you to this point. So tell us about your company.
Yes, my company is called MiMi Globe Goods, and we currently have 4 refugee artisans that work from their homes to produce fabric-inspired jewelry and accessories. And they're sold mainly in our local retails, boutiques, and museums such as Shahuli Museum. We also go to different trunk shows online as well.
So describe the products that you're currently creating with these refugee women.
So we have a unique line of fabric jewelry. So we use natural material or even upcycled material. For example, we have repurposed flower jewelry with leaves from celebrities such as Oprah's outfit that we get on an eBay sale.
No kidding.
All the way, to repurposing my own mother's engagement dress that has been sitting in my closet for over 40, 50 years, and as a sentimental piece. And we also have already made button cover with special fabric jewelry. They're just one of the kind. They're reversible. You feel like you're wearing two necklaces, but there's one. So when you reverse it, it's different design.
No, I've seen the button ones. So when you say kind of the button design, it's a little bit larger than a button maybe that you would wear on a blouse.
Yes.
But they're beautiful and they're covered in this fabric.
Yeah, they're covered in fabric. So we also have culturally inspired fabric. We have a line of African fabric material inspired from Africa that was donated to us, and we have repurposed them. And we also have custom made. We recently get our product into 10,000 villages, and one of the customers contacted us, say that she's ready for her son's wedding. The bride's from Bangladesh. They have this special celebration the day before. She would like to offer a plate of barrettes that made from our material. So we can also custom made for our customers based on their colors and style. So it's very versatile, and great thing about our product is it's very light. So I never thought about it. I even have somebody say, I've been having neck problem. That's why I don't want to wear jewelry, but your product is so light and so cheerful. And
when a customer buys one of your necklaces, do they know where the fabric came from? Like, would they know that it's an Oprah dress?
So for that one, because we only have limited edition, so we do tell them, we can only make 30 out of this garment. So they pretty much sold out actually.
Do they know it's Oprah's?
They do. They say, I love to get a hug from Oprah. So who wouldn't want to get a hug from Oprah? And they just, when I see them wear it, they just this radiant, smile, just glow on their face. They know somehow, they're closer to Oprah.
Oh, yes, of course. Now, do the women that you're working with, do they have any idea who Oprah is?
No. So the first time so the Oprah idea was sporadic. I was reading Oprah's magazine last February because I subscribed her magazine, and she said Oprah was clearing her closet. I say, and then she's having a closet sale. I thought, well, let me see if I can incorporate a piece. So I only bid on one piece and I got it. So I went to our artisan Toma's home. She lives down in Tukwila, which is close to the airport. And I told her, and I went there with my magazine. I say, this is Oprah. Do you know who she is? She said, no idea. And this is her clothes. Yeah. So I basically tell her, take good care. Like don't, don't, stuck with many other people, like underneath the couch or something. So from that, that kind of get us going as the very first major project about the idea that not only we make very beautiful necklaces, but what set apart is that we can make something special.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great story.
So that was the experiment.
Yeah, I love that. What did those necklaces sell for?
They were sold for $50.
Okay.
I think they cover probably mainly the cost of the outfit.
Right. Yeah.
But it was really fun to see that idea. That I'm hoping that we can, if your listeners know any other public figure that are empowering women, we would love to get an outfit from these individuals and make them into a line of powerful woman inspired line.
Mm-hmm. Does Oprah know about you?
I guess I'm not a best marketer. I did try to send her a letter through the magazine saying, hey, we will purpose this piece, and anyway, we'd love to present you one, but I haven't heard back.
Oh, okay. My gosh, because I would think that they would be all over that.
So
Yeah.
I think I have to try it maybe another angle. Maybe somebody knows Oprah.
I agree. Maybe someone who's listening. Yeah. That is a great story. So so you've got this business now. Is this what you do full time?
No, I'm actually a clinical pharmacist here in town working for the polyclinic. 3 days a week, I take care of patient on a blood thinner called the warfarin. So they come to my clinic to be checked, and I also manage anything have to be with blood thinner. So I work 3 days a week. But as an immigrant myself, I came to America 32 years ago. I know deep in my heart, I always want to give back to the community, but I just didn't know when. I'm always waiting for that moment. But sometimes life happened in a very funny way. 2015, end of summer, we took a trip to France, and in this town, the Biarritz, I bought a necklace made of fabric. And when I come back, the first day of school, almost every mom I know stopped me and asked me.
The first day of school for your child.
Yeah, first day, you haven't seen your friends or mom for the whole summer, and everybody was complimenting how special, beautiful the necklace. So I thought, great, you just got to go to France and got it. So I just thought that was the end of the conversation. But I always loved fashion, and I've kept in touch with one of my instructors from University of Washington. They used to have fashion certificate program. I took it and finished in 2014. So
you finished the certificate program while you were still practicing.
Yeah, at night. Yeah.
Oh, goodness. Yeah.
It's a night program, and I did it for the whole year. So you will commit every Monday night for 3 hours, and you learn from design, production, and marketing. So I've kept in touch with a couple of my favorite instructors. So I met up with my Camille Sting. She's one of my favorite instructors. I said, let's meet for coffee, see what you're up to, what I'm up to. And she mentioned that she is a volunteer instructor for a nonprofit in town called Muses Fashion Studio. They teach refugees how to sew. It's a program. It's a training program. And I told her, do you see what I'm wearing, this necklace? I have so many people ask me, you think it's a possibility that maybe the students might want to make extra money to make these necklaces? Because I have people ask me. I know I can sell a few to my friends. So from that, I connected with the program and present to the student about this project and asked if any of them want to make a prototype on site, because it's not at least part of it, but just assess their basic sewing skill.
And the students weren't refugees themselves.
Students are refugees.
Oh, the students were refugees. Okay,
there's about 8 of them from different parts, mostly Southeast Asia, from Cambodia, Bhutan, Vietnam, other parts, mostly Southeast Asia. So I told them that this is something they can work from home, and I'll be able to teach them how to do it. Would they be interested in it? At the end of the class, because they all have a chance to make their little prototype, and they all raise their hand and say, yes, they want to do that. But I have no idea whether there was a market. I'm working as a pharmacist. But I said, well, let me just pick one, and the one I picked, her name is Toma. She's from Bhutan. She's the one that was the most proficient English and the best sewer in class. So that's how I get connected with Toma. She's the very first person, while she's still in that program, that I hire as a contractor working from home. And it turned out that it couldn't be a better fit, because Toma grew up in the refugee camp in Nepal for 20 years. She's in, pretty much her whole life. And she contracted polio. So coming to Seattle, going to training and some of these manufacturing jobs, it's been very difficult for her to work out. She have tried a few. You have to take the bus and transfer bus, and then have to stand and sit. So with her disability, it was very difficult. So being able for her to work from home as one of the 7 children, she's the oldest. So she can be her mother's helper and not waste any time for travel. So we kind of figure out this is a good way for her to overcome a lot of barriers for employment, language, transportation, in her case, disability. So she can really, the moment she wakes up, she want to work, machines there, tools there. She can work in between doing things for her family. So it worked out really well for her. So I thought, if this model worked, we can try to replicate with other women that are in her network.
Right. Now, did she already have a sewing machine?
So in her case, she already had a sewing machine, but our 3 other artisans, they did not. So that was
Were they also students, or did you find another
no.
connection?
So it's Thomas' friends. So when she got married in December and moving to St. Louis, and she didn't know how that's going to be a married woman and have to spend more time with her husband. So she just wanted to reconsider about this program. So she said, "Why don't you just contact my friends?" Because they have heard much about it. And that's how expand her network of her friends.
And so the friends didn't have sewing machines.
So yeah, she had 3 friends, and 2 of them have no sewing machines. As a matter of fact, one's never ever even seen an electric machine before. She said that she sewed in the camp by hand, but so I had no idea what to expect. So when I first went to her house with my machine, I knew we had to go over the parts of the machine, but I quickly realized that the best way for them to learn is actually through YouTube, the tutorial, because you can look at as many times and try it out. So amazingly, she's our most recent artisan, Usha, down in Tequila. I went with the machine, and then within an hour after I come home, she texted me, saying not working, and she showed me the leaves or wrinkled up, the lines all, zigzagging. So I'm like, great, I have to find a day when I day off, maybe sometime this week, next week, go over the machine with you, see how we can troubleshoot. And
did you have experience yourself with sewing machines?
A little bit. I'm not a sewer.
Okay.
I like to design, but I've never considered myself as a sewer. I'm just very basic, but not to a point I can really teach people. But these people are truly resilient. 2 hours later, I get a text message of this picture of perfect shaped fabric leaves. Just the most beautiful piece of leaves I've ever seen. And she told me she figured it out.
Oh, gosh, that's great. Yeah.
So I knew she was motivated and she wanted to do a good job. So in my heart, this project is always about finding opportunities for them. So if I can have more people appreciate what we do and get into the market, that means more jobs for them. So it's sort of my motivation to how can I find market to sell them work, because I told them that your job kind of vary a little bit because depending on what our connection is and how we sell, depending on it's a high season, low season.
How long have you been selling the necklaces?
Since end of 2015.
Okay, so about a year and a half or so.
Yeah,
okay.
About a year and a half. It's just a fun little hobby on the side. Then now we just become a nonprofit, realizing.
Oh, you are a nonprofit.
Yeah,
Excellent.
so it was start just me as a side little hobby, and then I have more volunteers have jumped in, say this is more than just one person job. So we have volunteers right now helping from making posters to helping us going to stores, talking to people.
Now, how did you get into some of the retailers? Like you mentioned the Chihuly store here in Seattle.
That's a remarkable story because up to last summer, there was absolutely no, being a pharmacist working 3 days. I don't really have much time, but I do have a group of friends who love my products and been wearing them, So one day during the summer vacation, I get a email from Chihuly Museum saying that please come show us your products. And I was like, wow, I'm so flattered. Like Chihuly Museum, the Chihuly. And then I was, then I went to meet with the buyer. I say, thank you for inviting me and to notice who we are. I said, we have not done zero marketing. How did you hear about us? And she said, well, I was at the store. I noticed this lady wearing this beautiful necklace. I went up to her, where she found this necklace. And she said, it's actually local. So she told her about the story. And I didn't know who this person was. I was like, great. I want to know who this friend was. So 2 weeks later, I was at this gathering. I belong to a little swim group of ladies. We swim in Lake Washington. And sort of an end of year celebration. And
So that in itself is a little crazy. Like that you swim in cold Lake Washington.
Yeah, I love it.
And it's the end of the year.
Yeah, it's the end of the year. Yeah, it's freezing cold.
Yeah.
So we're there, and then she's like, "Oh yeah, Ming, I was at the Shahuli Museum the other day. You know, showing out of towner. Somebody stopped me, and then I gave her some information. Had somebody contact you? Oh, I said you're the mystery lady. So that's how you started with just literally because it's so unique and different.
Right. So they're so stunning that the same thing that happened to you in the very beginning where someone said, "Oh, that's beautiful. Where can I buy that?"
Yes.
It's just it happened to someone else. So it's
Yes.
kind of perpetuating itself.
Yeah, so that was kind of our first stamp of official approval that this is a desirable, beautiful product.
Yeah.
And Shahuli Museum has been our biggest supporter every time. She said, "Don't be shy. Show me what you have."
Oh, that's great. No, that must have been a big boost to your confidence in terms of the product. Have you then moved on? You mentioned that you're in 10,000 villages. Are you beyond the Seattle store? Are you across the country with the 10,000 villages?
Yeah, right now we're just in 10,000 Village, and then we are actually last week we were the artist of the month up in Edmonds. So we're feature artist for the store called Fabric of Life. That's another fair trade. So we're up in Edmonds, but yes, we would love to get beyond the Seattle area, and I was trying to find a way to get some fundings for us. So I have entered 2 business competitions, and I have won both competitions.
Oh my gosh!
So Northwest Business Impact Northwest sponsored their first business competition in November, and I was the finalist of the 9 businesses, and had to give a live pitch, and we won the audience award. And
Congratulations!
Thank you. And a group of students from Seattle University learned about the project, so they took on our project, and we won their student business competition for the Social Innovation Award last week, and they're taking this project to a national competition. So that's sort of our way to hopefully get some grants.
Do you see the company growing in terms of, you said, do you have the 4 women right now that you're working with? Do you have a projection of how many you would eventually like to work with maybe in the next year or the next 5 years?
Sure. We're a nation of immigrants, and cities with major immigrants and refugees are the ones I really see MiMi Globe Goods can make a difference. So right now in Pacific Northwest, I can't see why this model cannot be duplicated in other major cities with, immigrants and refugees who will really benefit from the cottage sort of industry, working from home and supplementing income for their family, while increase their self-confidence and dignity, and also help them integrate into American society, because they'll become taxpayers and have to learn about what it's like being a typical American taxpayer citizen.
Do you think that you're going to attempt to bring that to other cities?
I do. I would like to see that. Right now we're only in Bhutanese community, and I also just hired 1 Chinese immigrant who has no English skill at all. The wrong reason that she started working is I thought maybe I should, beyond just the refugee, maybe let's start from my own community. I'm Chinese, so I asked the editor of Chinese newspaper locally to put a little ad, and this lady, her name is Sue, she just started speaking to me in Chinese with no fear, saying she liked the job, she's a very hard worker, all in Chinese. So I go to Chinatown, meet with her regularly to teach her. So we're hoping to expand to refugees and immigrants that will really benefit from this type of work here locally, and expand to other major refugee and immigrant community here in Seattle and Pacific Northwest, and hopefully collaborating with other people who are interested in this project elsewhere in the country. I do think that this should be a national.
I agree. And the possibilities are endless too, just in terms of the communities that you can work with, and then also the products that you can make. And it's home businesses.
Yes. And then I want to, my goal is not for them just become craft person. I think if they have other potentials, for example, the two artisans up in Everett, they say they've been to the Everett Farmers Market. They say, what about we sell what we make at the market? I say, great. Then we need to learn how to do money transaction, keeping of inventories, and other things. They say yes, they would like to learn. So I think there's other sets of skill beyond making things that we can empower them. Perhaps they can use the skill they learn and transfer to something else that inspire them to achieve.
Do you have people who are helping you right now with this? You're not the sole
No,
person.
I'm very fortunate. I have from professors, to retirees, to active friends in human resource, friends who have been in retail.
Right. I can't imagine that you're not only trying to, well, you may not be teaching them the exact sewing skills, but you're teaching them these skills and the kinds of products, and then going on to teaching them business skills. That's a lot.
It is a lot. And plus we have many different evolving products. You got to learn different product lines and how to communicate with me when supplies are running low, and just make sure things are made at a really high quality.
So I think that I've just seen the necklaces. What are the other products that you have?
So right now we have necklaces. We also have barrettes for girls, and we also have bangles that we make. And pretty soon, we're thinking about other fabric inspired, product for either handbags or other things as well. But right now we're focused on accessories.
That's
and
fantastic.
Jewelry.
Great.
And earrings, of course.
Okay, yeah, of
Yes.
course, earrings. So just to go back a little bit, so you said that you've been here for 32 years. So you
Yes.
came as an immigrant yourself. Where did you come from, and what brought you to the U.S.?
Yeah, so I was born and raised in Taiwan until I was 14 years old. My father was one of the first 3 engineers by the government to send to Saudi Arabia in the late 70s, and we joined him in early 80s. So I lived there for a few years.
In Saudi Arabia. Wow. What was that like?
It was
As a 14-year-old.
As a 14-year-old, it was a complete shock because I come from a very tropical place like Hawaii with lots of greens, to a desert in a very Muslim conservative society. So all of a sudden, my mom was a professional woman. She couldn't drive, and we all rely on my father. And
What was that like for the family?
so it was very different dynamic because my mother never even baked bread before. So she was home learning how to cook and be.
She was forced into that role. Really,
Yeah, because there's no woman.
because of the environment.
There's no woman jobs there, and so she's there to support my dad's career. And I was fortunate enough that I went to international school to learn English, and just at that time was an oil boom. So I have friends from all over the world that I never exposed to. For me, it was eye-opening about learning about different cultures.
Because their fathers presumably had also been sent there to work.
Yeah, so I have people from
around the
India,
world.
Sweden, Korea, all over. So I met people, and that's when I realized the world is big, and kind of taught me the idea of be open-minded because people are all very different. And from that, after there for 2 years, there was no high schools for foreigners at the time. So my parents had made some decisions. So we came here with my mother first before my dad was hired by a company here in the U.S. because he's a civil engineer. So he has a special skill that being hired here to work. So since 85, I've been here.
Where did you move to?
I moved, my mom has a really good friend in San Luis Obispo, California.
That's a lovely area.
It's a beautiful place. So I went there, going from a desert to a beautiful beach town, where I received the next 2.5 years of high school education. And before I went off to University of California in San Diego for my undergraduate degree.
And that must have been a culture shock too. So, so from Taiwan to Saudi Arabia with an international school, and then to I don't know how large it is, but it's.
San Luis Obispo was really small at that time. It's about 40,000 people, and there's very few Asians. I think if you're Chinese, your parents either a professor or you own a Chinese restaurant. So
Was that difficult for you at that age, or
it
were
was
you kind
definitely.
of rolling with the punches
I
by
was
that
running the
point?
punch, but after being at the international school where it was very diverse, it was a little bit harder for me to go into a small town in America. So I was definitely ready to go into a bigger university and back to be more multicultural kind of setting. So UC system is known for big and diverse. So I was very fortunate and couldn't be prettier than being at UC San Diego. Was a wonderful experience as an undergrad.
Yeah, beautiful.
And that's where I major in biology and minor in art. I always loved art and always painting and just doing things. And
So that sense of fashion and style and beauty, that aesthetic, has always been with you, even though you were also studying the sciences.
yeah, it's
Hmm.
just being an immigrant. And I actually met my husband after my freshman year. He just finished medical school in New York and San Diego, and he kind of encouraged me to go into healthcare. And then I knew that I like to help people and I like science and just think it was the right thing to do. But I always loved to create, and my own sister actually followed her passion. She went to Parsons School of Design, and she's a very great artist in many ways, and graphic designer. So there's always sort of that artistic thing in my family, but I guess I was suppressing it. Just
You were
know
being practical.
I was being practical, being the firstborn. You had to be
Yeah,
practical
yeah.
and do the right thing. But I always knew that somehow I want to combine that and something good in my immigrant community. I was just waiting for that moment. I wasn't sure what.
And
What?
so, do you feel like this is the first time since you were in San Diego that you've been able to allow this to kind of come out and flower, or were there other times along the way that you did things to help people, like in
Hmm.
the immigrant community?
Yeah, so I'm always very active in my Chinese community. So I start a chapter here in Seattle. It's called the Chinese American Citizens Alliance. I was very active while living in Portland, so they asked me to start a chapter here. And that's where, as a voice for Chinese American, in terms of how if you have issues and concern as a group, this is the group that you should go to and also learn about your Chinese American history. So I'm always very interested in that. But I continue, even from my daughter was very little, I always continue in my creative path. I started what's called MiMi Bug years ago, where my daughter was designing make your own skirt to writing a children's book with illustrated by my daughter. So the creative side's always there.
This is what you were doing on the
Hmm.
side, always on the side.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah. So and then including obsession with better manners for kids. So I start teaching manners for children. So there's always that creative side of me that, beside being a pharmacist, that kind of keep me balanced. But I finally feel like Mimi Globe Good is like a calling. I feel maybe somehow God is finding this path of me combining my passion for fashion and wanting to help the most vulnerable. I just feel like somehow it come to my life and I need to take an action. And it has been the most rewarding and just gratifying experience. I just every day wake up, couldn't wait to do more.
So before we started recording, you had mentioned to me just kind of a couple of stories about the women that you're working with and some of the difficulties between the cultural bridges that you've had to make and some assumptions that you've made about how much they might know about living in America, let's just say. Can you tell some stories about working with these women and kind of some of the issues that have come up and how you've overcome those?
Sure. So one of the great example is the first visit we went up to Everett. It was with the two lady, they're cousins. They live next door to each other. So we're very happy to meet them. But the moment the door opened, I can hear this beep beep keep going, and then I introduced myself, and then I also have another volunteer with me, and they say, yeah, the baby's sleeping in the room. The husband also sleeping because he works at night. And I say, do you notice this beep? Because I walked in, I can hear it. She said, yeah, it's been going for 2 months.
Oh, 2 months.
And I said, that's a fire alarm,
Oh,
and they don't
no.
know what that was about. So we,
Oh.
before everything was even start to talking about the project, we changed the battery to make sure and then kind of educate them, what, especially to have a baby. It's important that there's a fire alarm if it's not alarm is not working, you can detect this, the potential fire hazard. So anyway, so that was the first sort of like, okay, they don't even know, the landlord didn't go over that, they don't even know what I was about. They're just going to ignore it and think it's going to go away. So that was just one first. And then second of all, we just take for granted for electricity. They grew up in refugees. My artisans all grew up in refugees, some over 20 years.
In the camps in Nepal.
Nepal.
These are all Bhutanese women.
Yeah, they got relocated to Seattle. All these are within the last few years. The longest is about 5 years since being in Seattle. So they live in a condition where electricity was rationed or almost no electricity. So from that environment to here, all of a sudden you give them a electric machine, sewing machine. It just almost overwhelmed them. But the amazing thing about these women are extremely resilient because they want to find a way to succeed in their own term, especially if they're housebound or they have transportation they can't get out. So I was just amazed that through their own tutorial through YouTube, they were able to learn and troubleshoot. And one lady, she made the most recent artisan Usha. She didn't know how to use a machine, but a few hours later, she texted me the picture of the perfect, beautiful fabric leaf. And I have to say, did you make it? She said, yes. So I knew they have a lot of talent and potential, and if they have overcome so much in their lives that they were invested in try to make it best here in the U.S. So my role as more of an ambassador and trying to give them the tools and overcome the barriers for them to be able to acquire the skills and help them to make some supplemental income.
That's a common thread kind of in the immigrant community, often, not always, where they've been through so much adversity. They're so appreciative of being here that they will be resilient and really do everything that they can to succeed. But that's not everyone, though. But how do you find these folks? Or do you kind of wait for them to come to you and say, pick me, because you know that they're going to be the ones who are most excited about it?
Right now it's really just word of mouth. So Toma was the first one that worked for us. And when she got married and moved to St. Louis, and she said, my other friends have heard about what I've been doing. I've shown them what I've done. They want to do it. So, and then, yesterday we're at 10,000 villages, and on the way taking them home, we have about half an hour in the car. And the two newer ladies say, I have another friend. She really wants to do this.
Yeah.
Can you come up and teach her? So
no, do these ladies have the sewing machines themselves, or do you provide them?
I provide them.
Okay, so are you purchasing them with your own funds?
Yes,
okay.
currently.
Okay, so one of the ways that people could help you would be, and you said you are a nonprofit, you've got your nonprofit status, would be to donate funds, of course, but also maybe sewing machines that are not in use.
Here's some of the example of costs, for us to really we provide the sewing machine, all the tool jewelry making tools and materials, everything for them, plus free training. That will average about $500 a person, for them to be able to work on their own. And so that is a cost that initially it's always me, go there and incur the cost. So that's a great way. But another way is it costs a new sewing machine is about $200. So you can help, us to purchase a machine, and the toolkit is about $100+ that you can help us assemble. We'll have a list of things that they need when they first start. They don't even have scissors, and the right scissors for cutting fabric and small scissors. So anyway, so stuff from that, thread, needle, everything.
And then how are the ladies paid? Are they? Do you pay them per hour or per piece?
So while we realize that it takes a while to get to speed, but on average, once they're trained, we know that they're able to make certain number of pieces per hour. And then we use the Fair Seattle, Washington State standard. So they actually are being paid very fair wages for sure.
Right, and is that $15 an hour now?
That's sort of our standard. So we were trying to figure out how many they can make and make sure that they're being paid fairly. And the best thing is, they don't have to spend time traveling. It's right at their home. And in the beginning, I was the one always go there and expecting and bring them home. But now we figure out a system. Actually, they can just mail it to me, and then we can and then we can do a lot of things actually through texting and imaging. And so before they ship, we'll make sure everything. So a lot of things can be done using technology, I think.
Sure.
And they're also willing to learn technology. We teach them. So we're hoping through hands-on and ways of have them to use the modern technology. Somehow we can make this work efficient for everyone. At the same time, it's something that it's sustainable for them.
And I understand that you also you have a partnership with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation.
Yeah. So I'm always interested in refugee issues. So I attended their refugee talk last November. And at that event, I started talking to various people from presenters and also the organizer, because I was so thankful that she allowed me to come, because the program's already closed for the day when I found out that day. And then I told her that what I do, and she said, sure, I can get one more seat. So from that, she learned about what I do. She said, why don't you, would you be interested in having your artisan come for the Melinda and Bill Gates Foundation, their holiday market? So we had a booth, and we had our artisan there making the stuff. Right.
How many pieces did you need for that?
We were, so the war had like a month to do that, so we kept them really busy. We only have 2 people at a time, so they were busy making things. So it's probably a few hundred, at least 350 pieces were ready, and then it was very well received. And from that, I got a call from the visitor center director, Deborah, that they want to right before the event, they want to really promote this event. So we were actually on King 5 talk about my project.
King 5 TV, yeah.
Yes, and also their holiday event. So it was we were right next to Glassy Baby, so I would feel so honored.
That's a big deal for folks who are not in the Seattle area. Glassy Baby is a huge deal to be affiliated with those folks.
So we're next to Glassy Babies and chat with them, and then 10,000 villages, all these socially conscious and people, organizations that want to make changes in the world. So that was a really, first debut within all these wonderful organizations, and we knew that we're at the right place and working with the right people.
Do these ladies know how special it is, what they're doing, what they're involved in, and kind of getting this recognition? Do they understand how important or how special the recognition is that MiMi Globe is getting?
I don't think they realized until the final competition. For the first competition is a live pitch. And so I asked them, I say, if you could come, because it was down in Tacoma. It's a Friday afternoon, bad traffic if you're from Seattle. And I say, if you can come, maybe you're not understanding 100%, but I want you to be able to see what I do.
Right. So you were the one actually doing the live pitch. Is that right?
And then they were invited as the audience. And that really just blew their mind, and then the thing is, I told them my pitch, the very end of the pitch is I wanted to stand up to say, the program, our artisans are here. But with the limited English, the moment they saw me walk on the stage, they all stood up. So there's multiple, you mentioned the culture thing, right? That's one, right? And then second thing, these wonderful ladies never really have a check, right? So I've already got 3 times. I either didn't know what to do with the check, or the check got tear up, or got another check.
Oh, no.
So there's definitely education about that aspect, and about how to manage your finance. You never really have a bank account, and so anyway, so there's just a lot of and for me the best thing is that it's cross cultural. I got to learn about where they're coming from, and what their dreams are, and actually how beautiful their country actually is.
Have you been to Bhutan?
I have never been to Bhutan.
Oh, you must go.
So when they tell me, they show me the pictures and where they come from, and I said, no wonder you are such a happy, content people.
Oh, I know. It's just beautiful.
Something in the water or something.
Yeah. What's in the air, I think it's the high altitude, and just it's the absolute beauty of that country, for sure.
Mm-hmm. So even though they were living in such, subhuman condition for over decades, and just seeing them appreciate and despite they all live in tiny apartments, like family of 7, and
Here, now they're
in
living, yeah, a big
Seattle,
group,
the
yeah.
first one, I always go to her house every week. That sense of contentment and sense of joy, and made me realize, you know what, it's beyond monetary. It's how you radiate yourself to the world, how you want to receive that energy. So they were able to make, so for them, even though we think it's poor, than in this little apartment down near the airport, you can hear the airplane noise. But today it's probably a whole lot better than where they were for 20 years. So learning a sense of gratitude, it's being with them. It's super humbling.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. We can get to how people can help MiMi Globe Goods in a moment, but if there was someone out there listening and they just wanted to help refugees in their neighborhood, in their city, what would you suggest to someone? Because it can be really overwhelming. You might want to do some good and try to bridge some gaps, but gosh, I know for myself, I wouldn't even know where to start. What would you say to someone like that?
Yeah, so I had the same intimidation in the beginning, even though I myself was an immigrant. I already overcome some of the barriers with language, but still, didn't come here as a refugee, so it certainly feel like I'm a different category. So I think the easiest thing is beyond just sending money. If you really want hands-on, the IMC International Rescue IRC, they are one of the biggest center internationally. You can contact them, see if anything in terms of any skills that you have that you can contribute. And REWA, which is Refugee Women Alliance here in Seattle, I think they're wonderful. I just contacted them and learn about what they do. So I would say, depending on if you're the type of person like to have a face-to-face interaction, either from volunteering at their center for anything they need, or it can be behind the scene.
And there's probably similar organizations in other cities that
Yes.
that people can call just
Yeah.
to find out how they can help too.
And if they want to help in what we do, we certainly need more volunteers with the MiMi Globe Goods. We're sort of in the initial phase. So if you have talent even in designing, marketing, and also helping us with human resource and other aspect that you think can help a nonprofit to grow, we would love your talent, your
Great.
time
Great.
as well.
What's the best way for people to get a hold of you?
So the best way, just go onto our website. It's www.mimiglobeGoods.com.
I'll add
And-
that in the show notes too, so people can link right to it.
Yeah, and then like I said before, we're very happy we could get a first piece of Oprah. So any of your listeners there have any connection with people that you think women would enjoy wearing a piece of jewelry from, Angelina Jolie to Melinda Gates, somebody that they feel strongly admire with their, achievement and how they have treat the world with such a compassion, and those are the people that we would love to have a piece of their clothing and repurpose.
That's a great idea. I love that. I love the fact that it's not only like, let's say it's Oprah, but that you can market it as maybe not one of a kind, but limited edition pieces,
Yes.
which I think is lovely. So this is the Be Bold podcast. Can you tell me what being bold means to you, kind of how that resonates with you?
Being bold is not be afraid to take action on your ideas, because sometimes we all have a lot of ideas, and it's sitting there thinking about it or overthinking about it, or thinking about it and just say, let's take an action. So for me, I thought, well, wouldn't it be great to combine my desire to help women and my fashion? But then I decided to actually make it happen. So being bold means is that you take a chance. You don't know if you're going to succeed or not. But knowing that you're taking the first step, you already succeeded.
And sometimes I find that when you are have such a strong conviction about your decision, it does come to fruition, because the universe opens up to you and you start seeing possibilities, and people start coming to you. And just like the woman from the Gates Foundation who saw the or was it Chihuly, who saw the necklace on someone, right, Chihuly, and it just kind of perpetuates itself when you're so confident about something.
Yeah, I think when you send out a message to the universe saying that this is what I want to do, the good to the world, and it will come back to you in a way you never imagined it would be. And so being bold is that you also need to be open yourself to ideas and to let other people know what your ideas are. I think a lot of time people may feel like they have to keep the secret. Like, I have this very special thing that I don't want too many people know. I think the contrary. I think being bold meaning that you share your idea and find people with common vision to try to achieve rather than just trying to keep it to yourself and trying to see you can just do this all to yourself. And I think being bold in this case is like these women who also take a chance on me because
the refugees.
I go to their home. How it is like to open your door to a complete stranger.
As you've done for me today. Thank you. To recognize that.
So being bold is a leap of faith. You take, you go for it. You take an idea, you go for it, and you give the best intention. And don't be afraid.
Do you wish that you had thought of this, or you had thought of something years earlier, or do you think this is just the right time? I know you have a family. Do you think that this is just the right time and place? And with the children do you have one child or?
I have two children. Teenagers. Right
now.
Okay.
So do you think that the timing just all kind of lined up and it just said, yep, this is the time when I can start giving back to this community?
I've always wanted to explore other things and not sure when that's going to be. I would say that, it would be great if it happened 10 years ago, but I didn't know at that time maybe it would be too overwhelming for me. I think knowing my children a bit more independent and I was still pretty new to Seattle, and now I know more people in Seattle. I'm more established.
So the timing was just perfect.
Yeah, and just having taken the class at Fashion Certificate Program, knowing a little bit about the business, about design, I think all the things you do in life, somehow that right moment will come, whatever is maybe 10 years from now or at this moment. For everyone's different. So for me, I feel it was a perfect storm. It was just ready to happen. And when you are open, can hear, the ripples in the water when it's out of turmoils in your life. In my case, I feel like I was able to hear the ripple of the good things coming my way, and I just let it seep into my heart. And I think that's how it has happened that way. It's very organically.
MiMi, that is beautiful. And I think that's a great place to stop with that just beautiful sentiment there. So thank you for that. The final words there are just so touching. And thanks again for your time today. I appreciate it. And having me in your home so we could record here too. I know you have a little construction going on which folks might be able to hear, but that's great because that's all organic and that's all meant to be. So it's just perfect. So thanks again so much and really best of luck. And as I mentioned, I'll add information in the show notes so people can reach out to you and support you and find you and, send you Gwyneth Paltrow dresses or something. Who knows?
Yes.
Who knows? Something great. I know lots of great things are coming your way. So thanks again.
Well, thank you for and thank you for coming all the way from West Seattle.
Oh, yeah, no problem at all. Thanks.
Thanks.
Isn't she great? My big takeaway from talking to MiMi is that you can make a really big difference in someone's life by doing something that's relatively simple. I mean, just consider what she did by changing the battery in the fire alarm of someone's home. She likely never imagined that a jewelry purchase she made in Europe would lead to her having one of Oprah's dresses and then creating a business out of it that not only helps these refugee women, but is also getting this great recognition with awards for her innovation. You can find out more about MiMi Globe Goods and other things we talked about in the show notes at wanderlustandlipstick.com/podcast. You can find out more about me by visiting Wanderlust and Lipstick as well as Wander Tours, where you'll see the tours that I lead around the world. I encourage you to also check out the Wander World Foundation. This is the nonprofit I founded to help women and children in developing countries. I'll put links to all those sites in the show notes as well. Sign up for my newsletter on the Wanderlust and Lipstick site and you'll receive a free download on how to get more out of your travels. You can friend me on Facebook and I'm WanderGal on Instagram. If you like what you hear, please subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, or Google Play and write a review. This really helps the podcast get more exposure. Ultimately, it's my desire to grow our Be Bold community, and this is one way you can help out. Please also share this podcast with friends and on social media. Don't forget to use the hashtag #BeBold. If you know of any high-performing, adventurous, philanthropic women whom you might think would be a good guest, shoot me a note or leave a comment. And finally, the ladies can join us on our BeBold Facebook group. That's where you'll find our community. It's where we share goals, talk about our setbacks, and where you can find words of encouragement and inspiration from others. Thank you for joining me for another episode of the Be Bold podcast. Until next time, be bold.